Again, as I said, I want to sincerely welcome each and every one of us. And to tell us right from ab initio that when we are doing physical, we always have two sections for objectives. And I've asked them in the secretariat here that they will forward a paper to us very soon on this also, in addition to this work. What we want to look at is the classification of the objective. Classification of the objectives. And my learning objective is that at the end of the section, the participant will be able to differentiate clearly between the three domains by putting identified performance, training-related problems into appropriate classification. Classify the learning objectives into the three domains or categories appropriately using the three components of objective setting. Then set at least 5 learning objectives under each of the domains. This is the agenda, the three domains, the verbs, and the process. What? As I said earlier, it's very important to bear at the back of our mind that there is no way you can achieve anything in training if right from the beginning you don't get it right. The history of block taxonomy started with a man called Ben, and it classifies learning into 3 main areas, which we call knowledge, skills, and attitude in education. But in training, we give it another word: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. And they are very important. That without it, you can't get results. Now, a look at training circle will tell us that yes, the first level is assess and analyze needs. And from the exercise we got this not quite long, we can see that a lot of our organizations no longer carry out assessment and analyze the needs. It's obvious from the assignment that we have carried out that we have abandoned that, number one. And when you abandon that, is the platform, is the foundation. It is also the reason why most of the virtual courses are just a mere repetition. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Despite all the changes that is happening within that industry, because we have not assessed and analyzed the needs that have changed. And once you cannot do that, you cannot move to, even when you move to the next one, which is develop learning objectives, you will discover that it will not be done in the appropriate way, because the learning objectives must be based, as we will see later, on what you have analyzed as it is by the time we realize what objective is. And when you also don't get the objectives properly written out, applied, it will affect the design and development of the program. Rajiv said it yesterday where he was talking to us about what learning is all about. And this is one of the reasons why today most of organizations don't have any value for the amount of money spent on training, because we didn't get it right from the beginning. After you move from the design and develop the program, then you go to implement. When you also don't have appropriate objectives you don't have appropriate designing, then when you want to implement, it will also affect it. And the last one, which is evaluation. You can only evaluate what you have already set out to do. And when you have set out to do wrong thing right from the beginning, it will definitely be affected. And you know that it's a cycle. It comes back again to solving the problem that you have identified at the first stage. Now, let's quickly take a look at these three domains. In education, we call it knowledge, skills, and attitude. But in training, we call it cognitive domain, psychomotor, and affective. So, the first one we will look at is the cognitive here. The cognitive domain. And it's very important to ask the question, what do we really mean when we are talking about this? We will be able to talk about this as we make progress. Now, let me ask for our comment on this. What do we mean by cognitive? Put it in the chat box. Your own view, your own knowledge on it. Let me just use that to ask two questions at once. Put your knowledge, your concept, how you want to define it, and then how many levels of cognitive domain you are aware of. Quickly put it there. How many levels of this are you aware of? Cognitive has certain number of levels, categories. How many? I'm waiting for us. Put your answer on the chat box. Intellect. Just put the number. Don't mention it first. Before we start to look at it one after the other. Okay, Elizabeth is fine. Yes, I'm waiting for others. I'm waiting for us. Elizabeth. See? Yes. What about others? I'm waiting for us. I want to answer, please. Put it on the chat box. Let's quickly see. Yes, it's about the knowledge, but how many levels do we have? How many categories from what we call the cognitive? That's the question I'm asking us. The question is just, that is one part. Cognitive domains about knowledge, intellect. That is one aspect. What about the second leg of the question? How many categories are in the cognitive? No one except Elizabeth has been able to answer me. I'm waiting for others, or do I start to call us by name? We set objectives every day. Okay. Your last week. Okay. Is there anyone that has any other contrary opinion about this? Okay. Well, we are all correct. Let's move ahead because of our time. The cognitive is divided into 6. Before I start to talk about the cognitive, let's quickly take note of one thing, that objectives and aims are not the same. Objectives and aims are not the same. Let's get it right. Now the question again to us, please write out on the sharpboard objectives, aims. Write what you know about aims, what objective before we go into the category. Yes, I'm waiting for us. What do we mean by aims? What do we mean by objectives? I want our answers, or I start to call us. If you don't mind, I will call. Once, if I don't see anything, I will be forced to also call us by name. And some names we know that I will call you. Yakubu. Okay, Yakubu, yes, Yakubu. Please unmute and tell
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think under cognitive, that is knowledge.
No, tell us first. We have moved beyond that. We want to distinguish between aims and objectives. What is an aim? What is aim? Tell us that.
A.
Yes, sir.
A is the actor. That is where you say who. You know, we have A, B, C, D of the learning objective.
Yes, sir.
A is the actor. That is who. B is the behavior. That is what. Then C is the condition. That is how. D is the degree. Then how well.
Is that the aim?
No, that's the ABCD of the learning objective.
Okay. The question we are asking is that what is the difference between aims and objectives?
Okay, sir. Objective is what you want the participant at the end of the program to achieve, or what you want them, the outcome of the program. At the end of the program, what is the outcome? Then maybe the impact.
Okay, thank you. Now let's take a look at what Etim and Diola, I think Morayo. Diola, did you put anything also? Etim said, what you aspire. Let's get it right. I want to read out some of the assignments we have done earlier. Note that when we are talking about aim, it is what you, the trainer, intends to achieve. You, the trainer, intends to achieve. Let me read out one of the things that we said here by one of us earlier as the aim. Now, I won't mention names, but I want to read out what you said, the assignment you submitted. At the end of the training program, at the end of the training, participants will be equipped with the fundamental skills to optimally utilize organizational resources and carry out general management roles. Now, is this towards what the trainer will achieve or what the trainee will achieve? Please raise up your hand to answer the question. If you want me to read it out again, I will read it out. This is just one out of the few ones I have here. Yes, Shegun, aim is the broad result or outcome we ought to achieve. Shegun and others, who is that we referring to? Mention the we. Who is the we there? You. There are two major people involved in this business now, the trainee and the trainer. So who is the we referring to? Please, you can raise up your hand so that we can take this. Because this is the beginning of the mistake we commit in setting up objectives. And once we don't get it right, then we will not be able to achieve anything. I'm waiting for answers. Aim is what you want to achieve. Who is? Okay, you. That means the trainer. Okay. Yes, another one. An aim is a general statement of interest. Fine. By who? An objective is more specific about what the learner should know. Like who is the aim for? You are here to give me an answer, a definite answer. Yes, aim is general. Fine, we know that. Objectives are more specific. Fine. But who is aim for? Like what I've read to you, at the end of the training, participant will be equipped with the fundamental skills. Well, because of our time, there's another thing. While objective statement written in clear and specific terms, yes, trainees will be able to do after going. Now, well, we will come back to all this by day. I'm quite sure again during physical. But one thing we need to note, I've read that one. I read that one here. Let me see again how some of us have also crafted our objectives under that question 4. At the end of the training, participants should be able to enhance capacity for the changing environment, improve their skills. I've read that one. There's another one. Objectives. Let me also read out another objective by us. Objective by another person. Under accountability and transparency. Objective. Participants will be able to devise appropriate mechanism. You will agree with me that all these are geared towards you, the trainer. Right? And it's just towards the training rather than the trainer. And that is the beginning of the mistake we do make. When you are writing out aim, which is very broad, from this you take objectives out, which is specific. Aims are directed at what you, the trainer, intends to do. While objectives are what the participants will be able to do to carry out action at the end of the program. Thank you, Dela. So, objectives on successful completion of this workshop. You must be able to know that objectives are geared towards the trainee, what they will be able to accomplish, while aims are geared towards the trainers. Now, I would explain that. We go back again to our discussion of the 3 domains. I will send us also a paper on these objectives and the aims later as well. Now, we go back again to look at cognitive. Cognitive is divided into 6, as Riley pointed out. And let's take a look at it. We are saying that it involves knowledge and the development of know. Let's take note of this. To higher level thinking. We will also see when we are setting our objectives that in most instances we concentrate on only the low level. Cognitive is the learner's ability to process information in a meaningful way. And there are 6. There are 6 categories. And you will see why most of the training we do, we don't get the expected result. Now, these are the categories. Knowledge, which is the least. You move from that, we see more about it, to comprehension, to application, to analysis, to evaluation, to creating. Now, knowledge, which is remembering, is the level 1. And in most of the programs we run, we limit what we intend to achieve to this level alone. You will see it later, define, mention, describe, list. All these are the least level, which is knowledge of the cognitive. And that is where we stop most of the objectives we do. We don't go higher. Even when you are dealing with people at higher level, we don't. We don't go to the second level, which is the level of understanding it. Then after that, apply. That's the third level. Analyzing. The second level is, can the learner explain ideas or concepts? Level 3, which is the applying. Can the learner use information in a new way? Level 4, can the learner distinguish between different parts? Level 5, evaluating. Can the learner justify a stand or decision? Can the learner, level 6, create a new product or point of view? You will also see the verb expected for each of these levels as we make progress now. Now let's quickly see some of the verbs we use at this level. There are so many levels, so many here. The level of knowledge, recall information. I read that one earlier in the assignment given to us. The word understand. Is that an active verb? No. But you will be able to have access to this in your paper later. The different verbs that you can use at different stages. I see many objectives when we write it. Some we even put to describe and then analyze on the same line. You cannot put the two. It's never done. So we have objectives that will not tally with the subject matter. That will not even tally also with the problem identified. These are some of the reasons why we don't get results. Now, please, if you have any question, feel free to put your question on the chat. Please feel free or raise up your hand so that we can answer the question as I make progress. Now, having explained the cognitive, then I move to the next one, which is the psychomotor. Let me also say that just as we have different categories for cognitive 6 levels, we also have for the psychomotor. Let me also throw the question to us. How many levels do you think we have at the psychomotor? Please put it on the chart. Or you raise up your hand. I'm waiting for our response, please. Just as we have categories, levels for cognitive, we also have for psychomotor. So, how many levels? Please raise up your hand. Feel free to, in adult class, you don't get anything wrong. You can put it on the chat or you raise up your hand to tell us. How many levels? Yakubu. Okay, please. Okay, Morayo, 4. Okay, just guess it. I love you, 18. That's nice. It's good to always make an attempt. Okay, Yakubu, you are raising up your hand. Can you unmute? Yakubu, please unmute.
They are about 7.
They are about what, sir?
About 7 verbs, key verbs.
No, we are not talking about the verbs now. We are talking about the categories. we have mentioned that under cognitive we have 6. Now we are saying psychomotor how many?
Okay.
Someone said there are 4 there.
I have 7 here.
You have 7, okay. Yes, any other one before we move? Okay. Should also be 6. Okay, final, because the other first one is 6. So automatically this one must also be 6. That's nice. Okay, let's move ahead. We have 5 here that we will discuss. 5. There are 5 categories under that. And when we are talking about psychomotor, this also requires the skill is the learner's ability to use motor skills. These are behaviors you see clearly. And when we start to set objectives, when we start to do some exercises, you will see where we always make some mistakes. We have also at different levels, just as we have for that. One, the least level is also the imitation. The least level is the imitation, where the participants or the learner learn by watching and imitating action. From there, it moves to manipulation. From there, it moves to persuasion. From there, it moves to articulation. And last but not the least, naturalization. That's the high level of performance. And when we are setting objectives, we must always set objectives to reflect it, especially based on also our target audience. That is why the same program, that the same title, the course of the title of a course, the same course, you run for low management staff, you can also do the same for top management. What you expect them to be able to achieve will not be the same at the same level. We talk about the verbs used later on this also. They are all there, and these are also the verbs that we also need to learn. I don't want to call names.
We stopped at the 5 categories of psychomotor domain. Can you hear me, sir?
Thank you. Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, sir. That's where we stopped.
Okay. Now, let's talk about these 5 levels. One, the least, just like we have mentioned under cognitive, is the imitation. What do we mean by this? Here, the learners learn by watching and imitating action. That means you must set your objectives in such a way that must make the learner to achieve this. The next level is manipulation. The next level is persuasion. The next level is articulation. And the last one, when you are setting objectives, you must be asking yourself, can this verb help this learner to achieve this? That is part of what must be coming to our mind. Will this learner be able to achieve this at this level with this? Is very important. Very, very important that we must be able to learn and know that. And then, now let's quickly see the different verbs that we can use. I'm quite sure when we also have our paper, we will have it. Let me confess one thing to you here openly. That today, by grace, when we are writing proposal in the office here, because I have all these documents, I will always put it beside me, so that I will check it one after the other, which verb should go into what. I love when I see many of the approach of courses. That is the reason why we are not getting results. Because right from setting objectives, we are missing. And once you set objectives not appropriately set, then when you want to implement, design, evaluate, you can't get results. Please, you are free to make your inputs or comments by raising up your hand or by putting any question on the chat, please. Please feel free. You can put your questions on the chat. You can raise questions. So far, any questions? So that before we move to the next one, which is the affective. Okay, I want to assume that there's no question. If there's none, then we move to the next one, which is the affective. What? Now, the affective domain. People always say that this is one of the most difficult. In fact, people always say many times that you cannot set objectives for affective. You cannot even measure it, but there is nothing you cannot measure. Interpersonal relations, communication, you can measure it. You can measure it. All these are things that you can easily measure. And so, just as we have for cognitive, psychomotor, how many do you think we also have under affective domain? Please just try your luck. Try it. Psychomotor domain. We have done that 5. Now, affective. How many categories are there? We have done that of cognitive 6, psychomotor 5, affective. How many levels are there? Please feel free to make your inputs. Let me wait for your answers, either by raising up your hand or write it on the chat. 5, Olawole, that's nice. Is there another one? 5, okay. Let's just get one more to be able to confirm or say no. Is someone also still trying to put up something? Okay, 5. Okay. Now let's move ahead. Thank you. We are correct. 5. The affective domain. This is the learner's attitudes and feelings that are a result of the learning process. And we also have 5. Receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, characterizing. Just as we also have levels, they also have. They also have. And the receiving is the least, is the first level. Is the first level. And we go straight to some of the verbs you also use here, like describe, follows, gives. After that, you move to the next level, which is responding. After that, you move to valuing. After that, you move to organization. After that, you move to internalizing values. Now, these are the different domains that we have when we want to set up our objectives. Let me pause here to take questions or comments before we move to the next thing. Questions or comments, because very soon we will go into practical now. Questions or comments? Please, you can unmute and then speak out. You can ask your questions. If there's any comment or any question, please feel free to raise up your hand. And if there's any input you want to make before I move to the next. Is someone raising up his or her hand or question? Okay, for now, please. Can you unmute? For now, unmute. For now,
Yes, sir.
yeah, please. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I just want to know if all of these things are applied in all our trainings, because there are some training that sometimes some institutions will just ask you, say, look, we have conducted all our training needs assessment and we just want for our people to be trained in this area. And as a trainer, do you also conduct training needs assessment after you were then told by the institution that, look, we have done all of these things and these are our lapses of our work employees?
Yes, sir. Straight to your question. Every training problem must have at least all these domains or one or two of them. When the organization has already identified for you, it is now left for you to break it down into which of these domains the problem will belong to. We will soon go into the particles right now. Just like the exercise we did, we will have some exercises now. We will do some now. Every training problem, when you dissect it, when you break it down, we fall into either cognitive or psychomotor or affective, or can even be all. So when you are able to properly identify where it belongs to, then it will help you to know the appropriate verb to use.
Okay.
And that will take us to the next slide very soon now. Any other question or comment, please? Baba Yusuf, are you trying to make input? Can you unmute? Please unmute yourself, Baba Yusuf.
Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, do you have any question or comment?
No, you are doing well, sir. Keep going.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now,
Thank you, sir.
let's move ahead. I want to believe there's no question. Very soon, the exercise will reveal whether we need questions or not. Now, let's talk about the process of sequencing and relating it to training. Just like Fano asked the question now. The first thing is you identify the domain to which the specific objectives belong to. When you have a training problem, don't forget, when there's a performance problem, you isolate, analyze the performance problem, and see which one are trainable, which one are not trainable. After you have identified and know the one that are trainable needs there, then you now break it down into which domain. Does it belong to cognitive? Does it belong to psychomotor? Does it belong to affective? We will have examples very soon now. The next thing, you determine the category to which an objective belongs. For instance, cognitive has 6 levels. Even when you are broken it down, you still want to know which level of the domain the objective will be addressing. If it is psychomotor, you also want to know. Number 3, then you now sequence the objectives, beginning with the lower levels. When I see the way many of us draft our objectives, I just laugh. I go through most of the protocol courses, and I look at it and I smile. At all levels, even outside, I check the adverts of many consultants outside, and I laugh when I see it. It's a clear indication that we are not likely to get it wrong. We are not likely to get it right. Once we have done it, once we have made a mistake at that level. 3, you must be able to sequence your specific objectives, then develop your training so that you begin by instructing in the lower level. Because they must start with the lower level first. Now, what are the factors that will determine the appropriate level? Decide first which of these broad categories. Are you concentrating on cognitive? Are you concentrating on psychomotor? Are you concentrating on affective? The problem you are addressing, the problem that you have identified, which of these levels? Is it knowledge based or affective? Then you use the appropriate verbs. Then you determine which and which you will use to be able to match it. I will explain this. I want us to do an exercise. We will break down into probably our. But let's look at this exercise. Or if you don't want to break, I can call us. Let's study for a while, and then we say it now. Let's look at the question first. Let's read the question so that all of us will attempt it. Do I read it out or I hope you can all see it? Do I read the questions from here? Okay, can someone just volunteer to read the question so that will confirm that we can all see it?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please. Who is reading for us?
Exercise 1.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hello, yes, please.
Exercise 1.
Say your name. Who is reading for
In
us?
writing specific objectives. Mrs.
Adeola.
Olaluwa Adeola.
Okay, please.
Yes, sir.
Continue, please.
Exercise 1.
Yes, please.
In writing specific objectives, allocate each to one of the 3 domains. What sort of objectives do you think that you will be writing primarily for the following trainees? Number 1,
Yes.
a sales assistant.
Yes, please.
2,
No,
a
let's
bricklayer.
you want to read this first. Okay, let's read this first. We'll now come back to answer the question one after the other.
Okay.
Continue, ma'am.
Number 1, a sales assistant. 2, a bricklayer. 3, a packer. 4, a social worker. 5, an accountant. 6, a receptionist. 7, a forklift operator. 8, a laboratory technician. I'm true, sir.
Answer the question one by one. Question 1, what will be the answer? If you want to answer it, just raise up your hand or you write it so that, if not, for no, you want to try, that's good. Or mute and tell us.
Question 1, I will place that on Sakamoto.
Okay. Psychomotor. Yes. Is there any other addition? Is that all?
No, sir.
That is imitation.
Effective too.
It's under affective, sir. Affective, sir.
Effective.
Oh, this is a very brilliant class. I love that. We are getting it. So, number 1, we said psychomotor, is it? Then, how many of us agree that It has some elements of Sakamoto there. Is it Sakamoto? Yes. Which other one? Hello?
Affective, sir. Affective, sir.
Effective.
You will justify
Affective.
it. Let me help you put it first. Then all of you said it will justify. Okay? Is that all? Can you move straight to Sakamoto and affective?
There's also cognitive.
Everybody must be ready to make contributions. So I will be calling you one after the other.
There's also
Hello?
cognitive. There's cognitive, sir.
Is it possible for you to move straight to this level? Don't forget cognitive. You must first acquire the knowledge before you can start to. Now it has elements of also what? Cognitive. Please, if you don't get it, now let's go back to the question again. A state assistant. What is the work of a state assistant? That's the first thing you must ask yourself. You must know the
Buying
work.
and selling of goods.
Pardon? Yes, who is talking?
This is Ankito
Buying and
Kolawole.
selling of goods and services.
Please,
They organize and they also prepare. They organize and they also prepare.
organize
And prepare. Sales record.
sales records, okay? In addition to that, why did
So
you
they're under cognitive. Sir,
why did
so he's a,
it?
I'm talking for cognitive, sir.
No, okay. Now let's go to the second affective. Why do you think we also put that we must be able to put some objectives under affective also there?
Organizing as one of the categories of the affective.
Tell us the function.
Tell us the arrange.
Sales assistant that we fall under affective.
Arrange.
I see one. Okay, I won't say no, but
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
For affective, for affective, a sales assistant has to know how to attend to customers, which has to be his behavior.
customer
To be
relation.
people.
Hello, the customer relation. Interpersonal
The customer
relation of the
relations,
same person. Yakubu, you are raising up your hand.
Yes, sir.
Please, what's your
It's
comment?
sales assistant is effective.
Yes, you know that.
And under effective, he is to organize, valuing, he's receiving customers, and then responding to requests.
Thank you. Before you start to
Yeah.
now go to which levels of affective, which level of Sakamoto, you must first know and have proper understanding of the nature of the work of this person. A sales assistant, in addition to knowing records, will be interacting with people. And interpersonal relations falls under what? Affective. So when you are designing a program, when you want to set objectives, you must set objectives under which you can evaluate and assess whether the salesperson has been able to achieve this. Now let's go to the question 2. A bricklayer, question 2. So, question 2, who is answering that for us?
Yeah. First of all, we must
Who is answering it for us? Can we see that?
by learning. He must learn by watching and imitating before he can embark on the job.
Yes, you are not giving us.
Psychomotor, sir.
Thank you. Psychomotor, you got it. Let's clap ourselves. Let's clap ourselves so far. Let's clap. We are getting it. We are getting it. A bricklayer, the nature of the job has to do with skill. So it's Sakamoto. So you will not go to which level of the Sakamoto you think it must be able to. Now let's go to the third one. Number 3.
A packer.
A packer. A packer. What? Which domain do you think that one will also be?
Yes. Organizing.
Well,
Identify.
it's also the same as not a bricklayer. It's also Sakamoto. It's physical exercise. It's physical exercise. Now let's go to number 4. A social worker. Number 4.
That's affection.
Number 4. A social worker.
Effective. Effective.
Okay. How many of us agree? Let me. Do you agree? Before I put it. Number 4. Affective. Is it only affective? It will require
Cognitive also.
autism, because the person will require knowledge. Why don't you put Sakamoto there? Why don't we put Sakamoto there? Hello? Why is it that Sakamoto is not there for a social worker? I want an answer, please. Oh. Why is it that
the social worker does not need to watch or imitate anybody? Is dwells mostly on cognitive domain. That is about mental, the mental skill and his or her knowledge.
Okay.
A social worker, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Daniel, you want to say something? Daniel, are you there?
It's not something that is technical.
Yes, I am here.
Daniel, I'm looking for Daniel again. As if I would.
Yes, I have network problem, but I'm okay now.
Okay, you're okay.
Yes, I agree with the lady what she is saying. The social worker, the domain falls under cognitive and affective. I agree with her.
That's nice. Thank you. Now let's go to number 5. An accountant. An accountant.
Accountant.
Cognitive and
Cognitive.
cognitively.
It's more cognitive.
Cognitive.
Adebayo, where is your face?
It's more cognitive, sir.
Are you the person?
Accountant cognitive.
Adeboye. Adeboye, have you gone to Cyberchat? Where are you? You are an accountant. Tell us. Which domain? Unmute yourself, please, Adeboye.
Yes. Knowledge and analyzing.
So, knowledge and analysis.
Cognitive.
Okay.
Cognitive.
Okay, thank you. Cognitive. Is there only cognitive you think an accountant will require? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Sir.
Yes.
And also affective domain, because the accountant should be able to receive from the customers, must be able to receive money and also organizing all his or her work.
Okay. Beyond that, what is
Another Sakamoto, sir. Sakamoto domain.
which aspect of the work of the accountant do you think makes him to require Sakamoto?
Precision. Action are more precise.
What element of his work? Adeboye is you.
Action.
Hello, wait. Do we have
Hello,
another
sir.
Organization.
Do we have Adeboye? Wait. Do we have any other person?
Hello, sir.
Do we have any other person with an
Hello,
accountant? Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. We are with you.
My name is Tom here.
We are hearing
Hello,
you.
sir.
We can hear you clearly.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Which aspect of the work of an accountant?
I said is by analyzing.
What do you
analyzing
use?
and verifying.
I'm taking you somewhere. What do you use in the present day to do analysis as an accountant? Okay, so save our time. An accountant today now uses calculator and computer more than before.
We use computer.
That is the reason why we need
it's computer writer.
Huh? Hello, Sadaman.
Yes, sir.
That is why when you are designing a training program for an accountant, especially at the lower level of management, because they will need some knowledge on calculating, use of computer, use of spreadsheet, you need some psychomotor elements there in setting the objectives, not just only cognitive. Can we get something now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's move to number 6. Number 6, a receptionist. A receptionist.
Customer relations, sir.
Yeah, that is the work. So under which domain do we put it?
Affective, sir.
Thank you. Affective.
Affective.
Then don't forget,
Affective
when
domain.
you now want to set up the objectives, you will go to an affective domain. Depending on the level of the audience, which level of the affective do you think he or she will require? You go there again.
Receiving.
Beyond affective.
Receiving, sir.
Affective, the receptionist requires
Receiving and responding.
Don't you think it also requires some knowledge?
Yes.
And that is also element of cognitive. You will go to also the 6 levels of cognitive and ask yourself, is it knowledge? That is the basic. Do I move him or her from knowledge? Now, number 7. The question 7.
Psychomotor.
Okay.
Psychomotor.
Has to do with a forklift. What does it require?
Psychomotor.
Thank you, psychomotor.
Okay, sir.
Okay, 2 people are raising up their hands. Who are the people raising up their hands? Let's see them and ask for their input. Okay, Fano. Yes, I know you are.
Sir?
Okay.
Come again, sir.
You have a question or comment to make?
Cognitive, no one there.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. I'm good for now.
Oh, thank you. Yakubu, are you raising up your hand?
Yes, sir. Application. I think you should move to cognitive.
A forklift.
Yeah, he needs skills. He needs skill, knowledge and skill. Under that, he needs to, yes, knowledge and skill, application and
analysis.
Things. He needs knowledge, analysis.
That he will require will not be as much as knowledge of psychomotor. You agree?
Yes.
Okay. Now the last but not the least, number 8 is a laboratory technician.
Cognitive, sir.
A laboratory.
You need knowledge on how to carry out the specimen.
Okay.
You should have knowledge and the application.
Knowledge. So that is cognitive. Is that the only thing?
Yes, sir. The application, how to carry out the functions as a laboratory technician.
The ability to use apparatus. We are not thinking of that. How many of us,
That's skill.
how many of us are silent students? And how many of us are art students? When you carry the baker, carry instrument in the lab, and it's falling down, breaking, your hands are shaking. Under what do you think we have to put that one? It's Sakamoto.
Sakamoto.
When you get to lab and your hands are shaking, you're damaging everything. So you need to know how do you handle apparatus. You also need some knowledge of Sakamoto. So when you are setting your training objectives for a learner of this nature, you know where to go to. And you must know the level. Now, Dr. Mrs. Akinhemi, you are with us.
Sir, and effective, sir.
Okay. Element of affective.
I'm with you, sir.
Effective.
What does it need that down for? Justify your answer, please.
His attitude towards his co-workers. And attitude towards the patient that came for blood samples.
Okay. Depending on
his attitude towards patients
will be very minimal, because the major problem is like the farm manager we looked at yesterday, who does not have an understanding of what it takes to work in the laboratory. Now, also, he does not have the ability to relate with the customers. But if assuming he has good ability to relate with customers, it won't require anything under affective. Do you agree with it?
Yes.
But because he doesn't have the knowledge, the technical knowledge of poultry, he also cannot relate with customers. They started to record number of customers living there. So when you have a performance problem, your ability to be able to analyze it very well, to know which of the domain the problem falls into, will help you to know how to set objectives. And that is why, Dr. Mr. Kenny, are you with us?
I'm still with you, sir.
Please make your input before I go to the. Thank you. You have comments, input to make?
Well, I think the class is doing fine. We have laid the foundation of all the dimensions of categories of objectives and their levels, and this will tie closely
Now, please comment or questions before we move to the next assignment.
Please, sir, can I just add?
Please,
as you are formulating this cognitive, psychomotor, affective objectives, we have been taught, from basic trainer, that you are also thinking of how to evaluate. Don't just make, that is what will test the objectivity of your objective. Can you test it? Anything you cannot test, evaluate, or assess, you have to look for a better verb. A better verb. Please note that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any comments or questions from any of us before we move to the last slide on this? Any question, comment? Now, you can cast your mind back now to the assignments we have submitted. Diola, are you trying to raise up your hand now? When we now cast our mind back to the assignment we have done, to our approach of courses in our organization, and start to take it department by department. Look at the work you are doing in your department. How do you set the objective? How do you evaluate it to ensure that the performance problems you have identified can be evaluated? And then when you look at the verbs you have used, you will see that many of these verbs are not verbs that active ones. Participants we know, participants we understand. They are not verbs you can use. Now, let's go to the next exercise, which is more or less a take home for us. We will read it together and then it will be posted to us later in the day. Now, the assignment is a simple thing. You are asked to identify a target group in your organization and hypothetically enumerate at least 5 of their performance problems. From the performance problems, bring out the training related problems. You know, we have said it yesterday that not all performance problems are training related. Rajiv also said it yesterday. Bank also said it yesterday. People said it yesterday. Now, when you have done that, you now classify the training related problems into each of the domains, into each of the, which one out of those problems belongs to cognitive, which one belongs to psychomotor, which one belongs to affective. You classify that, and then you will write at least 4 training objectives to solve the problem. For the time being, then go to also determine the activities, the subject and activities. Finally, you can leave the activities, but tell us the subject, the courses you will do, what you will offer them to solve the problem, so that we know that. And this assignment, we will keep on referring to it every day until the last day, which is evaluation. So if you have any comment on this, please feel free to ask your comment or question. I hope I'm clear to all of us.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Concerning the first question.
yes, sir.
You said identify a target group in your organization and hypothetically enumerate. You said 5.
Huh?
You said 5.
Yes, sir.
I heard you when you are talking at that time. You said 5 of their performance problem.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sir. Okay, sir. The 5. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. It's not written on the slide.
Okay, it's in my own slide. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Let me read it out again so that you can jot it down, please. Identify a target group in your organization and hypothetically enumerate at least 5 of their performance problems. Because you
Thank
need
you, sir.
to also have what we call standards. Yakubu mentioned something about the ABCD of objectives. ABCD. The ABCD. The action, behavior.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Huh?
sir.
Then the C
Is the ABCD. A is actor.
The ABCD.
B is behavior. Yeah. A is actor.
Yes, actor or action,
Yeah.
so that we can get it right.
Yeah. That is
What it must have.
that is who. That is who. Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, then B is behavior.
Every
Hello.
C is the criteria.
this
C
is
is the criteria for doing it.
the conditions.
No, C is condition.
Condition
How?
criteria.
And
How?
the degree.
D is
The degree of
how well.
Yeah, the degree.
How
The
well.
mastery.
How well.
The mastery or the
Every objective must be able to meet this ABCD. You will get it in a paper that we forwarded to you later so that you can read it. The action or the actor, the behavior, the conditions, and the degree. That is how well. And that is why when you look at most of the objectives we set, we don't have a degree. For instance, look at this first one. The first one about identify a target group in your organization and identify the performance problem. How many performance problems? You don't have any degree. And you see the first there. Hello, Master Sir. Let us unmute. I'm almost running off this session. Can you see the first in that objective?
Yes, sir.
As it has been said, that is why it has to be corrected. Enumerate at least 5. So when you want to evaluate and you now say participants will be able to discuss at least 3, you have taught them 5. So there must be how well when you are setting your objective. A paper is forwarded to you in addition to this paper of block taxonomy today. Please use the tool to answer the questions that we forwarded to you.